Next up is our mortgage insurance. You'll note that it's 0.5%. There's also down here in the one-time charges, a one-time charge for the mortgage insurance. I'll come back to that when I get to my one-time charges. The mortgage insurance, I'd like to point out, does you as a borrower no earthly good whatsoever. Its sole purpose is to make sure the lender and the government can't lose any money on this product. However, they're going to make you pay for it. And without the mortgage insurance, the product wouldn't be offered. So this is something you have to consider. You may not like it, but it's an imperative part of this program. Now, I will also point out on the mortgage insurance, this 0.5%, like the interest rate, it's charged monthly by most banks. I'm not good enough in math to divide up 0.5 by 12 and get you a good answer, but if you do, you'll get a good answer for what that is. When you do add it together, though, you get your initial total interest rate of 4.813%. This is the rate you're most likely to see when you look at your statement every month or every other month, depending on the bank. And I always encourage you, look at that statement. Any communications the bank's going to make will be in that statement. If they change a phone number, an address, or even the name of the lender, you'll at least have a clue what's going on. So I always encourage you, look at that statement. Now I'm going to jump next over this initial credit line growth rate to the lifetime cap on the loan rate. In this particular instance, it's 5% over this initial loan rate, or 9.313% for the monthly or annual, and 14.083 for the monthly. I know in today's world these rates are kind of high, but if you remember back into the late 80s and early 90s when people were paying 18, 20, or even 22% on their mortgages, this is to prevent you from getting that high. It puts a limit on where the lender can discuss it, how far they can go. It is also the major difference between these programs. Because the monthly can go so much higher, it can, over time, if you have a credit line, produce more money if it goes up to that height. On the flip side, it's going to reduce the value of the house much faster. If you have a fixed rate, or excuse me, an adjustable rate for the annual, it's not going to produce as much money over time, but it also will not use the value of the house up as fast. These are things that you have to think about when you're looking at these loans. The annual does tend to be a more conservative choice because it can't go up as high as the monthly, and because it goes up and down slower. The monthly is kind of a gambler's choice. If you think the rates are going to go up and you need a really high credit line, it may be worth it to push the monthly to try to get that high credit line. But you've got to understand you're also going to go through the value of the house much, much faster. If on the flip side, you're trying to do this with the intent of selling the house in a short time, and while I would not recommend these for short-term loans, sometimes you need to give yourself 1 to 3 years just to be able to get out. In that type of situation, you may choose the monthly, gambling that the rates are going to stay lower so that you can get out without using as much money on this loan. But that's a decision you've got to make. No one can make it for you. No one's going to be able to tell you this is what you have to do. You want to understand these loans so that you can understand to the best of your ability what you're choosing. The expected rate here, this 4.86%, they're suggesting over the life of the loan, as it goes up, as it goes down, it's going to average off at about 4.86%. Personally, I believe they're being overly optimistic because they base this rate on the most recent decade of rates. 7 of the last 10 years at this point in time have been some of the lowest rates we've ever had. 3 of those were record lows. I just don't see us staying that low that long. So I always tell people, take it for a grain of salt. You can choose to look at whatever rate you choose. I personally think it's going to be in the mid to high 6s, but nobody having made me king yet, I've got to go with the rates that are given to me on my sheet. This is something you have to plan ahead on.